Hello and welcome to this special author interview for the Fantasy and Sci-Fi Spotlight event in Shrewsbury. It's going to be happening on the 29th of September at the Nerdy Cafe. You've got to be there to believe how awesome it's going to be, so come join us there. But in the meantime, I'm Frasier Armitage, your host, part-time robot, full-time nerd, author of New Yesterday and Time's Ellipse. And joining me is one of my good friends who this is the first time that we're actually meeting face to face. So this is a historic evening that you're getting to witness, a piece of history as I get to speak to the legendary Ed Crocker. Ed, how's it going?
It's good. Do I deserve legendary? I'm not sure. I'm not
Oh yeah,
convinced.
there are legends about. There is the Crocker legend. Yeah.
I think you have to prove yourself before you become a legend. I'm simply a rumor or a dark bit of gossip. I don't. A
No,
legend, Fraser, is what I'm
there's
trying to
like there's like Hercules down here, and then there's Ed up
say.
here.
Okay.
That's in terms of like
This
mythology.
is.
Yeah.
I can't possibly meet this expectation. But thank you, Fraser. It's great to finally see you face to face because we've communicated online, as is the way these days, but we've never sort of had this. Well, not literally face to face, but virtually face to face. So it's very you are an actual legend. Not like a fake wannabe legend. You're an actual legend, Fraser. So yeah, it's good to talk.
This is the meeting of
Oh,
two legends. This is like when Jackie Chan and Jet Li were in a film together, and everyone was like, "Whoa!" And that's what this is.
it's a bit like a really pathetic version of that, yeah. No, it's exactly like that. It's exactly like that.
Yeah, I
Should we
100. I'm not.
should we talk about the elephant in the room? My stupid background.
Let's talk about the background because that's the background for your book, right? That's your book cover. That is Lightfall.
It is, yeah. I'm not a raging narcissist. I didn't really get my room set up properly, and it looked pretty awful. And Frasier has very kindly allowed me to do a fake cover, and apparently you can upload photos. So we had a bit of fun before this was recorded, bit of behind the scenes, and this is what we did. So this is the most stupid interview you've probably ever done.
And if I ask Ed if he's thirsty at any point during the interview, it's simply because when he holds his when he holds his cup over there, more of his cover is revealed and it says "You are what you drink," which I think is the most perfect bit of marketing I've ever seen in my life. Like, are you
When we
thirsty, Ed?
realized this, it was the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. It's so stupid. It's so brilliant. Look, you are what you dream. There you go. Whoa, you're. it's,
It's
I
great.
don't know what's happening, Fraser. I don't know what's happening.
It's a great tagline, Ed. Tell me about like what your book is, what readers are going to enjoy about it.
Sure. Got to stop looking at myself because I keep looking at the cover. It's so anyway. Yeah. Yes, my book. What was the question again? Sorry, Fraser.
What will readers enjoy about it? What makes it good, Ed?
So I guess the simple tagline, and this is kind of the first time I've ever described my book in an interview. So let's just see what happens. It's going to be pretty bad. But the simple tagline is it's an epic fantasy, but with vampires, werewolves, and sorcerers, but no humans. That's basically what's going on. So I guess if you like your epic fantasy, but you also are intrigued by the idea of seeing vampires and werewolves, not like horror vampires, although there are some horror elements, and not like romance vampires, but there are some tiny bit romance, at least in the kind of in the first book, but just more kind of investigating what the kind of fantasy politics and society and economy, what it would be like with vampires and werewolves, I guess. So if that sounds interesting, then it might be up your street.
That sounds awesome. I
Um,
mean, it's not like Twilight meets Lord of the Rings. It's more like finding out what the rate of blood is on the stock market kind of thing.
yes, yeah, perfect. Do you know there's actually a vampire stock market in it, or have you just
No,
made that
no,
up?
that was just me just like taking a wild stab. Yeah.
I told you a legend, Fraser. You're a mind reader. Yeah, no, that's exactly it. So, oh, can you do it again? There you go. That's exactly it. So, I'm really interested in all the boring stuff, like how how class would work if you were essentially immortal, because obviously vampires and werewolves are most of the time immortal. They are in my book anyway. So how would a society like that work? So should I say the plot? Would it be easier if I just said the plot?
I mean, just give us
Or
a
is that a bit
taste of the plot. Don't
a
give us the
taster?
whole thing,
Yeah,
because otherwise we'll be
yeah,
here a long time. But I mean, I would be
yeah,
here for it, but I don't want to spoil it for everybody that's
yeah.
like looking forward
I
to it.
meant like the blur, but even that's quite complicated. Well, I'll give you an example. So my book takes place in the last vampire city, and I won't tell you why it's the last because that would just I may as well just read the back of the book. But the working class vampires drink the worst kind of blood, right? Whereas the upper class or lord vampires, they drink the noble blood, the blood that makes you strong, it makes you powerful, makes you think clearly. So that's an example of what I want to do with this fantasy series, examine how the idea of blood can actually divide a society between the poor and the rich. So that's what I'm interested in. Not really like scary vampires or like lusty vampires or werewolves, but just much more boring politics and class. I make it sound really boring. I should say there's a murder mystery in it. There's a conspiracy in it. There's like ancient myths. There's the idea of like humans as law. One of my reviewers called it mortals as law, which is an awesome marketing way to put it. So there's loads of other stuff in it, and there's a bank heist, a werewolf bank heist, and there's like some just crazy shenanigans going on, and there's a sapphic romance, and there's all kind of other stuff in it. But essentially, at its heart, it's just me exploring making vampires and werewolves boring. Basically, that's what I want to
Yes.
do.
I think that is the perfect way of like pitching it, because like it's that is a huge challenge. Like, how do you make something cool into something boring? And it's like, if you achieve it, I will be very happy because that will be cool. And then you're in this whole loop of like, what that's kind of like Inception. He blows your mind.
That's exactly what I want to do, Frasier. Yeah, you.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you an example. So I've just read a review on Goodreads recently of someone who uh basically moaned that there's an entire it isn't me criticizing bad reviews, but bad reviews are important, etc. I enjoyed this is my point. They complained that there's a whole chapter in the first book about the vampire stock market, and it has nothing to do with the plot, and they were like, why is this here? This has nothing to do with the plot. And I was like, you're absolutely right, it has nothing to do with the plot. I just thought it'd be funny to put an entire chapter about the vampire stock market. But in my defense, in book 2, the entire city falls into revolution, and it's because of the crash of the vampire stock market. So I am planting really boring seeds, but you have to be a bit patient, I guess, with my books.
Yeah,
I'm not really selling this, am I? This is awful. This is the
it's
worst. Awful.
it's not
Uh,
foreshadowing, it's bore shadowing. That's what you're doing.
oh my god.
Yeah.
Foreshadowing. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what I do. I bore shadow.
You are bringing Bohr shadow. You are the what is it when you invent something? You're inventor. You're the inventor of Bohr shadowing. That's you, Ed. You're
I
bringing it into
am.
the mainstream. I love it.
Exactly. I'm gonna hint at even more boring stuff to come. Yeah,
No,
exactly.
honestly, it sounds like it's packed. It sounds like it's a world that is dense and layered, and you've thought about it a lot. Was it fun, sort of playing in that playground?
Yeah, really fun. I mean, I'm not a classical world builder in the sense that I don't kind of plan it all out beforehand. So I never sat down and worked out everything. What I did was I kind of did a mixture of kind of plotting and pantsing, where I had a general idea of the world I wanted to do, and then when I got writing it, I kind of just went back to it and just kind of sprinkled in bits of like vampire and werewolf lore. And honestly, it was it is. I'm still writing the trilogy. I've just sent about to send no, just sent book 2 off to my editor. And it's so much fun. I'll give you an example. So my werewolves in my book, slightly stolen this from Terry Pratchett, but kind of developed it a bit. They smell emotions as like as normal smells. So fear is what's fear? Forgotten now. Fear is metal, I think. Anger is like citrus, etc., etc. Lust, if if lust is like decay, unless it's someone who's attracted to you. But if it's like you're just smelling someone else who's horny, then it just smells of decay. Um, and I spent like entire remember I spent like an entire day like I started writing this like 7 years ago, and I just spent like an entire day just like coming up with all the matching the emotions to the the werewolf scent, and it was just like that was honestly so much fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am enjoying it.
That's great. I love that you've given thought to what does lust smell like to a werewolf. When that instantly is the kind of question that only writers have, right? It's like I can't think of another person just being sat there like on the bus thinking, if I was a werewolf and that person was lusting towards me, what would it smell like? It's
Yeah, it's a classic weird. Am I allowed to swear on this?
of course,
What's the
yeah.
swearing rules? Okay, it's classic weird shit that fantasy writers think about. Yeah, that's why. Well, and sci-fi. That's why we are, and horror. That's why we are who we are, because we go down these dark, strange avenues, and we think about stuff like that. Well, and I mean another example. If you want one more example, so the different types of blood in my world are based on animals like hawk, crocodile, bear, wolf, etc. But for reasons which don't really make sense, and I'm still trying to work out, I'll make it make sense in book three. They give the vampires different effects, right? So like if you have stag, for example, you feel like really kind of energetic, but also quite calm. You kind of like energetic calm, you know. It's not a drug analogy at all. Shut up. What? Who said that? um so so again, I spent like about a week kind of coming up with all these animal bloods and the effects they were going to give the vampires. And at the end, I just thought, this is quite weird, isn't it? If I never get a book deal, this is just one of the weirdest weeks I've ever spent. But I mean, that's what we do, I guess.
Totally, totally. And if you're a possum, then you would go really well together with a werewolf because you would just be loving the smell of garbage, right?
That works so well, yeah. So if you had
Yeah.
possum blood, you could then hang out with a werewolf. That's an awesome idea. If I put it in, Frasier, I'll credit you.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be that perfect little footnote
Yeah,
at the bottom of the book. This
yeah,
this was
exactly.
this was done with the help of foreshadowing. That's what you need. Uh,
You're actually making foreshadowing a thing, aren't you? I
I
can't believe
am.
you're making it
I'm
a thing.
determined by the end of this interview, everyone is going to be using. um,
You just
you.
ruined my reputation.
No,
Just to be clear, people watching the reviewers are saying it's a fun book, or not all of them, but most of them are saying it's a fun book, not a boring book.
No, I am I think, Ed, that it would be impossible for you to write a boring book because in all the conversations that
Ah,
we've had before, you are just 100% fun, like all of the time. Tell me, because I mean, we've had so many conversations because we're part of the same reviewing blog with Fanfi Addict, so
yes.
we interact most days. What's been your experience in terms of sort of reviewing so far, and how has that helped you with your writing, do you think?
Ooh, that's a good question. That's a really good question. Wow. Okay, let's actually think about this.
You didn't expect to be asked good questions today, did you? It's like,
No, I just thought it'd be like, tell me your name. What are vampires like? No, you're a master. I expected good questions. I just didn't prepare for them. I guess. Well, put it this way. I really like reviewing. Like, I really like reviewing books. I don't know why everyone else reviews. I don't know their motivations, but for me, it's a completely separate art form to say writing a book, reviewing a book, and it's just so much fun to kind of structure it and write it. I know it sounds a bit geeky, but like that's why I like Fanfaddics. We have a lot of awesome reviewers, and we think about our reviews. And well, not just Fanfaddic. There's loads of awesome other blogs. You know, all the ones we know, all our friends, and it's just so much fun to kind of put together a review that really gets across the book and then see like people's reactions to that. That's a rewarding art pursuit in itself. If that doesn't sound a little bit too wanky. Um, and I guess in a weird way, it's a sanity avenue for me, if that makes sense, because writing my books now is no longer a completely fun pursuit because I'm contractually obligated to write this trilogy. And if I just have writer's block, good luck, no money, bang goes a career, right? It's not a fun pursuit anymore. I don't mean it's completely stressful, but part of the devil's deal you do with if when you properly become an author is that there's pressure and it stops being just completely fun. My reviewing, like I could just stop at any time and it would be a shame because I love what I do and I love hanging out with you guys and everything, but like I could just stop at any time. But it's just pure fun for me. Like, I know it sounds really geeky. I just love it. I love it so much. You know, in the unlikely event that, my book is really successful and I get to do more books after that, then I'll never stop reviewing because I just love it so much. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I don't think it affects my writing. It doesn't make me think differently about my writing. It's just like a sanity. It's like I take it very seriously, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely from my perspective, it's changed the types of books that I go for. I'm much more in the know now about what's coming out, what kind of books are being released, what kind of trends there are. Whereas before, when I was just writing without reviewing, I was just writing stuff and thinking, "Oh yeah, this is cool." Whereas now I know how it fits into what else is out there. Do you feel like that's been the case with you in Lightfall? Like, do you understand where it fits inside sort of like the market right now, thanks to the reviewing? Or were you always sort of like totally au fait with vampire epic fantasy and where that slots in?
No, that's actually a really good point, I guess, because my reviewing kind of coincided with really exploring fantasy a little bit more. So I started reviewing about 2 or 3 years ago, whatever, and I was doing it on my blog first, and obviously no one reads it on your blog. And I'd already been a fantasy reader for years, but I just kind of started getting a little bit more widely read, if that makes sense. And my reviewing gave me a motivation to read more widely, because if you want to be a good reviewer, I think it does help. You can just talk about the book, but like you say, it's helpful if you have a little bit of a wider context. So for example, one of the many poncy things that I like to do in a review is sometimes say, well, this author has done this at the start and they are well known for doing this, so I'm excited to see what they're doing now. It's that kind of sort of, when you're reading a newspaper and they do that kind of very poncy, like they try and make you show how much they know about the whole scene. That's me. uh, no. I think if you want to be like a reviewer that gives good value to readers, which is not for the other authors, it's for the readers, obviously, then it's really helpful to just have a bit of knowledge about the scene. So yeah, it kind of put a bit more pressure on me to be like to read quite widely. It coincided with getting into indie fantasy, which is now I read more indie than trad, probably, almost certainly. So yeah, it was my sort of companion or motivator in this kind of journey to just sort of try and read as much indie and trad fantasy and horror as I could, I guess.
Yeah, that's cool. And in terms of you reading more indie than traditionally published books, um, that's kind of like reflective a little bit of the whole publishing industry right now and the whole, state of publishing. What's been your take as you've seen sort of indies sort of rise up almost, and what's your experience of traditional publishing in contrast with that?
Oh, Frasier's starting fires. I like it. No, I'm gonna try not to be naughty, because this is my first interview.
Oh, why? No, go start with a bang, like.
Start with, yeah. I don't know why I'm trying to censor myself. I'm just chaos. I may as well be chaotic. No, okay. So everything I'm about to say is not like, I'm not going to talk about my own experience much because I can't really. Although I can talk about in general terms. But my opinion of trad at the moment is that, with a massive caveat that I still read loads of trad and I'm obsessed with so many trad authors, and I think you should separate the authors from the industry because I'm friends with a lot of them. Well, there's a lot I'm not friends with, but I'm obsessed with writers. There's some incredible writers there. So I'm not one of those screw trad, don't read trad, because I think that'll be a shame. You're missing out on incredible works. And also these days, mid-list trad authors are basically almost on the same level as like massive indie authors because they're kind of screwed over by the publisher and they don't get any marketing. And I know some people like that, and I'm just like, I wish you could be famous because it's so unfair. Anyway, so separate the authors from the industry. Um, I have massive problems with the trad publishing industry, and I think, I mean, there's too many reasons to talk about now, but to be more positive, what I think is really cool at the moment is that indie publishing is such a viable alternative now. And if you do have problems that make you feel that you can't go the trad route, then it's such a viable option. And that's happened in the last 10 years, mainly the last 5 years, really the last 3 years. I think that's when it all kicked off. And one of the key problems, well, there's two key problems of trad. I'll put all the diversity issues aside because that's such a long conversation, but obviously there's issues there as well. Two of the key problems is that the success of books is not dependent on the quality of books. If that's news, and I'm sorry, you've obviously not, it's too long to explain, but it's dependent on the marketing. And trad publishers, they decide on quite early on which books they're going to market and which books they're not, and then those are the books that are successful. Largely, there's obviously books that go viral that are quite rare, but that's essentially how it happens. I think that's a stupid system. I think you should give the books that you buy a chance rather than discarding certain debuts. I also think trad has a problem in self-selecting which genres it's going to acquire for a few years. So at the moment, we have certain genres that are being mainly bought and others aren't. And no shade on the genres, by the way. I don't care what the genres are. I just think that it's not a good business model because you alienate readers. So those are the two problems. Indie is helping to solve those problems by offering a wider array of genres and then creating a more kind of equal playing field, although obviously marketing spend of the indie author comes in as well. So I'm very critical of trad. I'm very excited by indie, but before all my, trad author friends scream at me, I think we have to be careful with saying things like everyone should just go indie because some people still can't afford to. There's other very good reasons for going trad, like distribution, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm captain sit in the middle. So like I hate trad for lots of reasons. I boost indie. I'm a big fan of indie, but I'm wary of anyone kind of just being like, let's kick trad out the door, if that makes sense.
Totally, yeah.
Did any of that make sense? I just went
It
on a
totally
massive rant.
does. No, Captain Stand in the Middle rocks it. I'm as far as I'm concerned, I think that a lot of your points, Ed, are absolutely spot on because you, there's great advantages to both. There's great cons to both. So you've got to weigh up the pros and cons, and everybody's writing journey is different. Like your novels are going to be trad published, it's all good, but in terms of the variety that exists, I'm just so glad that we've got the indie community because a lot of indie books are just bringing so much variety to the table, aren't they? And that's going to be one of the nice things about the event, getting to spend time with all these different authors who are bringing all these different things, to the writing scene. Are you looking forward to the event and getting to interact with all these different authors and writers and creators?
I'm really looking forward to it. It will be the first event where I'm doing something as an author at. I think that's the thing. It's not really an author because the incredible Holly Tinsley, who's obviously arranging the event, the legend that is Tinsley. So she
Woo,
invited me.
Holly! We love Holly.
She is awesome. Although I've not met her like face to face, so that'll be nice. She invited me before my book was announced, so she didn't know that I had a book come out. So she just invited me because I review books for Fanfare Addict, and also possibly in my role as like a freelance editor because my day job is editing books, so I work with a lot of indie authors. Very fun job. So that to me is one of the reasons I was so excited about it because I kind of almost going as like a fan of indie authors, if that makes sense. So I'm not really going as an author. I'm kind of going as just someone who wants to kind of just talk about indie books, if that makes sense. Because has been, in some ways, my obsession the last couple of years is covering all these amazing indie books. So it's maybe the first event like that, really. Is it? Do you think? In the UK?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like definitely within the region, it is the first one that is really focusing and highlighting the benefits of indie authorship. There's different regional sort of things that are happening, but nothing in Shropshire. And this is it's kind of like historic. It's going to be amazing. Get first time getting indie authors together in one place to talk about their books and publishing, particularly for sci-fi and fantasy, which is so big in
Yeah.
the indie community. You know, it's gonna be pretty epic, right?
It's gonna be great, and there's some great people there, amazing indie authors there. And I think, in a way, I almost think this is kind of the future, really, because authors are going to be hybrid. Most authors are going to be hybrid in the future. I don't think that's particularly controversial thing to say. So in the future, you will have cons and you will have events where it's not like, oh, this is the trad event and indie authors have their own event. They will all kind of merge in the future. That is a future. So this is almost like the vanguard, obviously focused on indie, but it's a kind of vanguard of what the future might start to look like. So it's a start of something very exciting.
Definitely,
Sounds a bit
and
ominous.
it's yeah, it sounds like you're some kind of prophet, Ed. Is what it sounds like. I love it. Um,
No,
I've looked
I'm one of
into
those
the
annoying
tea
people.
and I have seen the future, and it's the
Yeah.
future is this. The future is now.
I'm one of those awful people who like just thinks they can predict the future. Those terrible people where they're like, climate change will have destroyed half the world's continents in 10 years. I'm just one of those edgelords who just sort of constantly prophesizes doom and, it never comes to pass.
You
But
put
this is
the
a good
Ed
thing.
in
It will come to
Edgelord.
pass.
Yeah, I think so. I
Yeah.
think that's it. It's speculative fiction. It's all the what ifs, right? Um, Tell me, Ed, about your con experience thus far, because I know that you were at Worldcon and somehow we missed each other. I think I missed loads of
Yeah.
people at Worldcon, but yeah, tell me about your con experience, sort of up to now.
We did miss each other. Yeah. I missed a couple of people. I missed Crystal as well. So Worldcon was my first ever con. And so I didn't do any like stuff at it, author stuff, because I only announced my book like a couple months before, or whatever. So I was just going there as someone who just wanted to meet people that I've talked to on the internet and never actually seen. So I was there just to like hang out in a bar, basically, and drink with people, really, really cool people. And on that level, I didn't even go to that many panels, to be honest. And I don't know, I'm gonna be judged for this, but like I'm not like a massively pro panel person. No, I'm not against panels. Sorry, that's a terrible way to put it. I'm not a pro panel person. I'm not against panels, but like I was there just I was just kind of wandering around being a moron going, oh my god, it's you. And yeah, it was just fun. It was like being a student for like 5 days, just like meeting people and hanging out with people. Um and I met some people that I've never, met before. And it was just, yeah, it was almost too fun, to be honest. When you come back and after a holiday and you're really depressed, and this was like that, but like 10 times more. I just came back to my stupid flat with all my games consoles, and I was just like, got to wait another year till I go to Worldcon. That's but yeah, no, it was. I mean, to be a bit more serious, one thing I learned from Worldcon is that there is genuinely like a network of authors like indie and trad who just want to hang out and just help people. Like they'll just help you and they'll like plug your book to someone else. You know, like one I'm not going to name drop people because I don't know, that sounds wanky, but like one sort of mildly famous author like had a drink with them and someone came up to her and she just started talking about my book, and there was nothing for her to gain from that. There was no kind of like cynical, like, she was just like boosting some weird random debut author she just met. And that was just a vibe, just people just wanting everyone to kind of do well, and it was just, it was just enjoyably non-cynical, I think is the best way to put it. And it just made me think that I just want to go to as many, because I'm a bit of an introvert. You'll be surprised to hear from my ramblings, but I'm a massive introvert. But I'm one of those introverts that can survive on like short kind of events and then I crash afterwards. So it just made me realize that I just want to go to as many of these as I can, basically, because it was, yeah, it was amazing.
And as someone who's, you know, not pro panel, are you looking forward to your panels at the Fantasy Sci-Fi Spotlight event?
Fucking hell. Why do I say these things? I'll get a reputation. I'm about to go to an event and be on panels. I just said I'm not pro panel. What's wrong with me? No, okay. Let me clarify. Like, so what I mean was like rather than go to all the Worldcon panels and just kind of sort of because if you're like me and you, Fraser, and you spend our whole lives doing this, there's some things that you've heard before, right? Not all those panels are for us geeks, right? Some of those panels are for people who are just going along readers, right? So what I meant was I just didn't want to go to every single one when I could be like walking around meeting new people. That
Oh,
was
totally. Totally. I get you. I
that was
get
my
you, Ed.
project.
It's all right. You don't have to. It's all good. It's all good. My question is all about how you feeling about the panels you're going to be on. So
Okay.
tell me about how excited you are to be on these amazing panels that Holly's set up, which are for everybody who's going, and they're not
Yes.
all like the 9 million Worldcon panels. They are very
Yes.
targeted to be helpful to new writers, to writers who've been there for a while, and the panels are going to be awesome. So how are
Yes.
you feeling
Let
about being on them?
I'm feeling good. Let's boost the event rather than yeah. Um, I'm really excited. They'll be my first panels. You'll be shocked to hear. So I'm very nervous. Holly sent out some like the moderators' questions though, so I've got like a guideline now. So I'm feeling a little less nervous. No, it'll be really cool because I'm on some cool panels with people whose names I've immediately forgot. But Tim Hardy, I can remember Tim Hardy. I know them. I'm just can't remember names when people ask me names. Steve McKinnon, yeah, that's another one. Um, but what would be really cool, I think, is just kind of getting to chat about this stuff that I'm saying now to an audience because you don't often get to chat in a kind of face to face, actually people there thing, and yeah, I'm just kind of looking forward to that, I guess, and hoping that I don't talk too much rubbish. I mean, there are some authors there who've written like 6 or 7 books. I mean, you've probably written about 6 or 7 books, Fraser, by now. You know,
No,
you
no, I'm
just
not near
and
that. But well, I've written that many terrible ones that will never be released. But I in learning to write. But I think it was about my 8th attempt at writing a book that actually made it, and I was like, okay, this one's finally good enough. Let's release this one. So yeah, so
yeah.
I'm a long term sort of like serial terrible novel writer before I actually started publishing them. So I'm maybe like a couple of
Are
novels
we
and a
all?
short story collection coming out soon. So, but apart from that, I'm still a baby, still a baby in the indie
Yeah.
community.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I mean. We've all written so many novels, so
Mhm.
I think it's a really good chance for readers to actually just kind of listen to the wisdom. Not me, I just talk nonsense, as you've realized, but a really good chance for readers to actually listen to the wisdom of people who know what they're talking about in a space, the indie space that isn't always focused on at conventions. That's
Yeah,
a more professional way to talk. Instead of going on about pro panel, anti panel, that's a more boosting way to do it. So let's focus on
yeah,
that. It's a
totally.
valuable opportunity for readers.
Yeah, it is. And I feel like the best thing about the about what Holly's put together is the fact that it's just going to be such a chilled out, very intimate, very cool day where everyone just gets to learn about one another, ask as many questions as is needed. Bada bing, bada boom. Have fun. It's a cafe. Get a hot chocolate. Have a good day. Bob's your uncle. Done.
Yeah, and it's like a games jukebox machine thing.
Oh, the
It's
nerdy
not
cafe is
jukebox. That's wrong.
awesome.
Arcade game. That's the
Yeah,
word,
then
what I was looking for.
you got to go. You got the nerdy cafe is just awesome. It's great. It's great. It'll be great for the town for Shrewsbury, and it'll be great for everybody who's there. So if you want to
Yeah.
come talk to Ed about how much you hate panels, and how much you love the idea of foreshadowing, come, come, come
I
down.
should never be allowed to be interviewed again. This is my last ever interview, everyone. Okay, so enjoy it because I'll never be interviewed ever again. Let's get Ed on to boost. Let's get Ed on to boost the event. So what it is, Frasier? I really hate panels, and what?
And my book's
Not
really
these
boring.
panels. And my book's really boring. And just don't come to the event. Really, just sit at home and cry. Think about how we're all going to die in like 20 years because of climate change. And
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah. It is. It's Edgeworld Crocker. Is what it is. It has been such a delight to talk to you, Ed, and to actually
That's
meet
it.
like this. And it really has, yeah. And for everybody who's watching it, I'm sure that you've learned a lot. I'm sure that you're excited about the event, and the amazing sort of reverse psychology that Ed's been pulling on you. And Lightfall, go check out Lightfall. It sounds like. And yeah, it'll be great to see you on the 29th, Ed. For everybody who has enjoyed it and wants to interact with you and tell you how great you did, tell me, where can they find you? What are your socials?
Um, where can they find me? So I am at, if you want to find me, which I doubt now. I am at Ed Crocker Books. So it's my name, and then very originally I've added books at the end. So Ed Crocker Books. I'm on all the annoying. There's too many, aren't there? I'm all on all the annoying socials. Twitter and Instagram. I'm kind of obsessively on. I'm also on Threads and Blue Sky, but I don't know why. I don't know what's going on. I've just started going back on TikTok actually, and I'm putting some very stupid videos about my book there. But I'm sure that'll last like a week before I decide that that's ridiculous. But yeah, Ed Crocker Books on mainly Twitter and Instagram.
Perfect. And yeah, and TikTok for the next week. So yeah, fantastic.
Oh, hold on, one more thing. What about you, Fraser? Fraser, your book's coming out. Just very quickly for everyone who's watching. Quickly
Thank
sell me your book because you are, if you don't know, by the way, if you're watching Frasier, I've read two of your books now. You are such an imaginative, inventive kind of, just even for sci-fi, you are a genuinely exciting thinker. So quickly tell us about your book coming out.
Thanks, Ed. That actually really means a lot. That Thank you. It's basically a
I mean it.
collection of
It's
short
the only thing I've
stories.
meant today.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's a collection of short stories, just that sort of, it's called A Stitch Between Worlds. There's 11 stories in total. They may or may not have a very loose connection to one another, but for everybody who gets there early, I'm going to try and include some digital copies in some of the welcome
Oh.
packs for the first few that get there. So if you do manage to get to the Nerdy Cafe, get there early, you may have a little taste of what the book will be. But it comes out October 10th for everybody else. But yeah, so that's pretty cool.
It's a bit
But
exciting. You should have led with that instead of like getting me to talk about panels. You should have just led with that.
but you're very kind, Ed. Thank you. Genuinely, thank you for joining me. It's been awesome, and I'll see you on the 29th.
I'm genuinely excited. It's gonna be awesome. Thanks, Fraser.